Okay, so we've just got a couple of things to fix based on the walkthrough there. So we had to change the attack distance to about 3, so let's just make sure we change that now in the inspector. And in fact, to make sure that it works on all the other enemies as well, let's actually change it in the script itself. And that way the default is actually now 3. Now we are setting the animations on the if distance, and we're setting it there as well. So let's take this animation setter out of there. And so now we only want it to be dependent on where the enemy is in relation to the player. Okay, great, so that's working. In fact, did I save that? I didn't, and obviously I can tell that because of the star. Now let's sort out that animation, because obviously the enemy at the moment is hitting himself on the head. So let's just get pretty close to the enemy, and then obviously we can see this in the screen there. And let's go to Window and Animation. Okay, and this calls up all of his animations. This is currently the walking with axe, but we need the standard run. Okay, so this is a standard run. If I play it now, you can see what's happening. So we need to find his hand and change his hand animation. So let's just scroll down until we find his hand, and it's going to be his right hand. And these are the fingers. There is the right hand. Okay, so let's just click on this keyframe and press record. Now we need to find his right hand in the in the hierarchy. And using the rotate tool, let's just rotate this down a bit. Okay, so that now when we play, he's no longer hitting himself on the head. It's getting pretty close to his head, but he's not hitting himself in the head. At least I don't think he is. If you want to adjust it even more, feel free to do so. But be aware that it will also change the animation for the other weapons as well. But I think that's okay. Generally pretty good, and I mean if you want to change any of these other elements, feel free to do so. You know, like for example the right forearm, just be aware that this does have multiple keyframes, so if you change one keyframe it will reset itself at the next keyframe, and that's quite a bit of work to kind of constantly be changing those. So as you can see, because I've already pre-animated the hand, I've only got one keyframe for the hand, because it doesn't necessarily change constantly throughout the animation. So all I did was basically just delete all of these keyframes that existed in the animation and just redid the keyframes for the hand. Okay, so nice and easy, so that one's fixed. And now what we need is the music. Okay, so to get the music, I actually want this attached to the first person controller. So I want it to be following the first person controller wherever he goes. So to do that, I'm going to go to the camera main, I'm going to right click on it, 3D object, and I'm just going to choose a cube. Okay, it's right there on top of his head. Let's move this down. Now, I don't need any of these things, so I can right click and remove those. Okay, and what I end up with is an empty game object, but now it's attached to the main player in his current position. I'm going to call this one Chase Music Cube. Okay, just like that, which is fine. Don't need to worry about tags or layers. And what we're going to do is put an animation on the timeline. So if you're not seeing timeline, obviously it's window, sequencing and timeline, and just drag it down to the bottom. So with the Chase Music Cube selected, we're going to click Create. We're not going to put it in my scripts. Let's put it into the Horror Fuse characters and animations, and we'll just leave it as that, Chase Music Cube timeline. Let's click Save. Let's remove this one, right click and delete, and we're going to add a audio track. Okay, great. Now the audio track, I'm just going to drag my project tab up to the top here. This can be found in the Horror Elements and Ambient. Okay, and the one that I'm going to use is the Ambient Run 2. Okay, so just click and drag that into the timeline. Now this is pretty intense music, so I actually want to lower the volume a little bit. So at the moment it's on 1. I'm going to lower this down to about 0.4 so it's not too intense. And I need to click on the chase music cube and ensure that the rap mode is set to loop, so I want it to constantly play over and over again while that enemy is pursuing us. Okay, now I've set that up, I can go back into the script, into the enemy attack script. So now we need to serialize this field, and it's going to be of a type game object, and I will call this chase music. Okay, so now I simply want to say if run player is equal to true, just underneath here I'm instantly going to switch this music on. So chase music dot game object dot set active to true, and obviously it will begin playing. Now you have to remember to switch it off to begin with when the game first starts. So Control and C to copy, and in the start Control and V to paste, and just set this to false because we don't want that music automatically playing when we first start the game. Okay, great. So that should now activate the music when the enemy starts chasing us.